So Multiversus just recently dropped, and it has had a lot of mixed reception. There were a lot of things that they have changed and kind of messed with from the beta, and it feels like a very different game. Now, for those of you who may not know, Multiversus is a platform fighting game, very similar to the style of Smash, but using Warner Brothers characters to make their own kind of unique character-based fighter. It had an open beta sometime around July of 2023, maybe even sooner, I don't remember. But it was overall a pretty good game, and unfortunately due to just a lot of issues, no ranked, poor netcode, they eventually just decided to take it down and decide to focus solely on fixing the game and then re-releasing it. Let's go over the pros of Multiversus, the things that I think really shine and are worthwhile. Now, the first thing that we cannot forget to mention is just the characters. I think a big part of fighting games, or any game in general, is having good character design. A big part of people being able to get interested in a game is if they find characters that they can relate to or they feel interest towards. But a big example of this is Akuma from Street Fighter. This character was designed in a way where he is synonymous with being just overpowered, the strong, undefeated badass character that has been in the Street Fighter series since Street Fighter 2, usually being hidden away as like a secret character, and just always being consistently super overpowered in every game. So when everybody was expecting Akuma from coming to Street Fighter 6, it brought a lot of hype because of how well designed the character was. So many people have been invested in Akuma and just who he is, including myself, that him coming to Street Fighter 6 with his redesign and his new animations, as well as bringing his iconic Raging Demon, made it very worthwhile for a lot of people. And I think Multiversus has the potential to do that with how many strong IPs that they have. Another huge pro is the fact that it's free to play. We kind of live in a time where things are getting super expensive, and getting games is definitely one of them. So having that ability to kind of just be able to play the game for free is definitely a big up for everyone. Everybody kind of wins from the situation. Usually when a game is free to play, it has some egregious microtransactions, which we will get to in a moment. But I do think that like giving people the option to play the game without having any like initial commitment is a genuinely good idea. And my last plus is that all people who happened to play Multiversus originally in the beta phase were granted the battle pass free of charge, and you get all your currency back in the battle pass. So essentially you have an unlimited battle pass if you're willing to play it out. Now, there are a lot of cons that I need to talk about because I think there are some glaring issues with Multiversus that need to be discussed. The first one, and like I think the one that bothers me kind of the most, is just how incredibly grindy it is. Characters are now no longer obtained with gold, but instead of their own fighter currency, which is very, very, very slow to get. This also concerns me for the land scene since there's no offline mode with the characters unlocked. So it just becomes a very slow, grindy session. You can't lab characters that you don't have. And it makes it really hard for tournaments to host like lands because there's no way to have all the characters unlocked in like an offline mode. Which is really concerning because it's very clear that they also want to have somewhat of a competitive side to the game. So I'm really hoping that gets fixed and addressed as soon as possible. Not only is unlocking characters grindy, but just leveling up your battle pass and just playing the game. A lot of the challenges, everything has been reduced to a snail's crawl grind. And I understand why they did it, because a lot of it is to incentivize you to just spend the money on the extra characters. But I'm not a fan of the way that they're doing it. Multiversus is not the first game to have paid characters, so let's not throw our pitchforks and start complaining. It is a free-to-play game after all. But the problem is when you make it so unbelievably hard to unlock characters, and it basically forces you into a situation where you're better off just paying for the characters. The worst part is buying characters is still ridiculously expensive. With $60, you don't even unlock the entire cast. There's no need for the game to be so expensive or so grindy. It just feels very oriented at making money, which I understand is their objective, but you know, you have to have a good game first. This one's not so much of a big deal for me, but I do think it's a little bit important. There was 0 ranked at all on day 1. This is a full release. This isn't like a second beta or an alpha. This is the full release. And there has been 0 ranked play. The main reason the betas died initially, outside of the horrible netcode, was there was no ranked. There's no incentive for people to play because there's no ranked for them to get better. For good players, they queue into quick play and they have to fight people who aren't so good. And for the new players, they're just getting steamrolled by somebody who's already better than them. I think it's very essential to have ranked play in any game that's being released and has a competitive side to it. Now, this one I'm sure everybody saw coming, but it's a big issue for me. They changed the way that the cameras worked in this game, as well as the character movement speed. They intended to zoom in the characters, and so because of how much more the camera was zoomed in, they slowed the game down. But it feels really bad to play. Now, I don't want to compare this game to Smash at all, because I think it's its own game. But coming from already playing Smash as a platform fighter, it just feels so awful. I never was a big fan of the Brawlhalla style combat, like aerials not being cancelled when you land, but this just made the game feel even more unresponsive and more unenjoyable for me. And it's a big sucker because I think the characters and everything in this game is pretty cool, but I don't want to play the game because of how just awful it feels to play. A lot of people are saying, you know, oh, just get used to it, or yeah, they'll fix it, but this is like, I don't understand how they rolled this out and thought this was a good idea. Now, monetization in this game. I'm not surprised it has monetization. It's a free-to-play game. They need to make money somehow. But the monetization is ridiculous. Everything feels like a mobile game. Everything feels like it's trying to get you to spend your money as quick as possible. And I would be fine with that if there was actually a good product. One of the biggest issues for me, and this is my final point, is that a lot of the stuff that has been in the game or was in the beta have been completely scrapped. The practice range used to actually function and have, you know, working combo counters and all these other things. The practice range has been absolutely gutted, which is ridiculous for a full release. If this were a beta or of some sorts, you know, fine, I can but this is the full release of the game. They took this game down for a full year. Fine, if you needed time to get ranked and all these other things working, but nothing is there. And like, most importantly, why is the practice range not working? Why can't we practice with, you know, characters we don't own, or like at least in an offline mode for tournaments? This has been incredibly frustrating, and it makes Smash Ultimate look like a good game. No ranked, no tools, nothing. You can't spectate a custom game. Like, if that is not ridiculous, I don't know what is. I would be way more gentle on this game if it wasn't for the fact that this game was took down in order for a full release, as they said. But the funniest point for me is that all the monetization has been working seamlessly. In fact, they have bundles that are being data mined. The entire game's DLC is just being data mined. Like, how are you not prepared for these kind of situations? I have never seen so much of a game's content being leaked so early because of how poorly made the game is, and it's really disappointing. I think it's a god potential, but potential doesn't mean anything if you're not going to use it. This game is relatively fun if you don't think about anything too hard, but that's the same as saying eating slop is decent enough if you don't think about it too much. Now, I'm not super critical because I hate the game. In fact, I'm genuinely critical because of the fact that I thought this game had the potential to be the next best alternative to Smash Ultimate. I thought it would be really nice to have a game that takes the good aspects of Smash, but also fixes the issues that the game has, such as the lack of proper online play. I'm not asking for a Smash killer or whatever people are expecting. I just was hoping that this would be a genuinely good game. And with how many good hitters in terms of fighting games that we've been receiving this year, I've kind of been expecting the same from Multiversus. Now, the devs have been super vocal about listening towards the community feedback. I am hopeful, I'm just a little bit skeptical. Waiting a year and receiving a product like this kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and it's going to take more than just sweet talk in order to get me to change how I feel. I do think you should still try the game out for yourself. I'm not saying that you shouldn't play it. If you like it, you like it. It just isn't for me. And I'm probably going to wait maybe a couple patches until they've make some. And I'm probably going to wait a couple of patches till they make some, you know, significant changes that fix a lot of the core issues for me. Mainly being the lack of ranked play and also the camera and the practice range. The practice range being the biggest one for me. But that sums up my kind of review on Multiversus and just my opinions on it. If you enjoyed my video, please consider leaving a like, a dislike if you didn't enjoy it, and a comment if you have something to say. And if you don't have anything to say, even just leaving an emoji helps out with reaching more people. Thank you for watching. Peace.